Thank you, Senator Stabenow. Questions?
The committees this morning put out their January 6th report. I'm wondering how what's in that report and what's not in that report will affect how you'll push for a commission going forward.
Well, we do believe there ought to be a commission to go forward. They almost assiduously avoided the two words that are vital to finding out what happened on January 6th, Donald Trump. The Republicans reportedly didn't want any mention of him at all. And to find out, I think we should find out if other members of Congress participated in this as well. So there's a whole lot. They did a great job on the report, but that deals with the immediate security needs. There's a much deeper and more important, or just as important, story as to how this happened, who was responsible, and what should be done, both to bring them to account and to make sure it doesn't happen again. Yes?
You talked about a lot of bills that you're going to bring to the floor, or try to bring to the floor in the next few days, next few weeks, but you didn't necessarily say you're going to pass these bills besides the China and science technology bill. Is it really the Democratic agenda? Won't we know here in a couple of weeks if the agenda is stunted?
Well, look, we believe America needs big, bold action in a whole variety of areas, and we're going to work hard to get the votes for the biggest, bold action that we can get. And in the past, our caucus has stayed unified and produced that big, bold action for the country. The ARP is extremely popular, even in the most of Republican areas, and we're going to continue to pursue doing just that. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
President Biden has presented.
Now, on a final matter, the Senate will soon consider bipartisan legislation passed by the House to create an independent commission to investigate and report on the January 6th attack on the Capitol. I've already taken procedural steps to make the legislation available for consideration on the Senate floor. I will bring the bill forward for a vote very soon. I'll have more to say on that in the coming days. The formation of the commission is more important now than it's ever been. In the months since January 6th, Washington Republicans have tried to rewrite history and recast the attack on January 6th as little more than peaceful protests that got out of hand. One Republican member said the rioters were more like a group of, quote, normal tourists. Did you see the tapes? Did you see the films, America? Those were normal tourists. Another went so far as to say the mob, not the staff who were terrorized or the police who were brutalized, were the real victims of January 6th. Give me a break. For the sake of our democracy, it's crucial to establish an independent and trusted record of what really transpired. According to an Ipsos poll today, 56% of Republicans believe that the election was rigged. 53% of Republicans believe that Donald Trump is the true president, not Joe Biden. That's what the big lie has caused. The majority of one of America's two major political parties doesn't believe our president is the actual president. Now more than ever, both parties must stand up to the big lie and shine a light on the truth of the 2020 elections and what happened on January 6. And yet, it seems our Republican colleagues would rather avoid the subject entirely. The Republican leader, after moving the goalposts week after week, announced his opposition to the commission, despite the fact that Democrats agreed to every single request made by the House Republican leader. One Republican senator said this weekend that, quote, it was too early to establish a commission. Another admitted that many Republicans opposed the commission because they feared it would hurt the Republican message in the midterm elections. Talk about saying the quiet part out loud. The prevailing view among Republicans seems to be that we should sweep the big lie and all of January 6th under the rug, like it never happened. Look, I'm sorry that some Republicans believe that a bipartisan commission, I'm sorry that some Republicans believe that a bipartisan investigation of the attack on our democracy is inconvenient for their midterm campaigns. But the Democratic-led Congress of the United States is not going to sweep January 6th under the rug. We're going to vote on the January 6th commission in the Senate, and the American people will see where every member stands, on the side of truth or on the side of Donald Trump's big lie. I yield the floor and note the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Baldwin.
America doesn't pay its debts. Our country is staring down the barrel of two totally Republican-manufactured disasters, a government shutdown and a first-ever default on the national debt. The impacts of both would gravely harm every single American in this country. Republicans would let the country default for the first time in history. A few moments ago, the Senate had an opportunity to begin solving these problems right away. Democrats did their part and voted yes. But Senate Republicans, meanwhile, voted to drive our country straight towards a government shutdown and the first default in our country's history. Let me be clear. What the Republicans in the Senate did tonight is not normal. This isn't your typical Washington fracas, and it shouldn't be treated as such. It has far more severe consequences than the typical political catfight. Republicans know the consequences of their obstruction. They know a default would likely create a recession. They know that middle-class families will suffer immensely. They've heard the same warnings that we have. And by many calculations, the Republican default will raise the deficit by more than the American Rescue Plan. And yet, Republicans still obstructed tonight. It's one of the most reckless, one of the most irresponsible votes I have seen taken place in the Senate, and it should send a signal to every family, small business, market watcher about who in this chamber is in favor of endangering the economic stability of our country and who isn't. Let me repeat, the Republican Party has solidified itself as the party of default, and it will be the American people who pay the price. Social Security checks, Medicare benefits, veterans benefits, small business, all this and more are now on the chopping block because Senate Republicans are playing games with the full faith and credit of the United States. Now, despite Republican intransigence, this matter cannot be set aside for even a moment. Before the vote, I changed my vote from yes to no in order to reserve the option of additional action on the House-passed legislation. Keeping the government open and preventing a default is vital to our country's future, and we'll be taking further action to prevent this from happening this week. Now, Mr. President, I move to accede to executive session to consider calendar 2. Consent that he be able to resume as soon as I finish my remarks.
Without objection. The Majority Leader.
Now, in America, Mr. President, we've always kept a basic promise. We pay our debts on time without exception. It's been a key to our economic success and our standing in the global markets across the world. Today, it's time for us in this chamber to do our jobs and make sure those promises remain unbroken. In order to preserve the full faith and credit of the United States, the Senate must act, and by the end of this week, send a bill to President Biden's desk suspending the debt ceiling and allowing our government to keep paying its bills and meeting our outstanding obligations. Later this afternoon, the Senate will vote on cloture on the House-passed message that would suspend the debt ceiling through December 2022. If cloture is invoked, the Senate will then vote to pass this bill on a simple majority basis. Democrats have been clear from the start. We're going to do the responsible thing and vote to allow the U.S. to keep paying its bills. Every single one of us is going to vote for cloture this afternoon. For months, Leader McConnell and Senate Republicans have insisted they want a solution to the debt ceiling, but only if Democrats do all the work by themselves. We've already presented Republicans with numerous opportunities to do what they say they want, including by offering a simple majority vote so Democrats can suspend the debt ceiling on our own as Republicans have asked. But each time, Republicans have chosen obstruction and kept us, unfortunately, on a path to default. Republican obstruction on the debt ceiling over the last few weeks has been reckless. It's been irresponsible. But nonetheless, today, Republicans will have an opportunity to get exactly what they kept asking for. And the first and easiest option is this. Republicans can simply get out of the way, and we can agree to skip the filibuster vote so we can proceed to final passage of this bill. I yield the floor. Mr. President,
The Majority Leader.
are we in a quorum?
We are.
I ask unanimous consent the quorum be dispensed with.
Without objection.
Now, Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate resume legislative session and proceed to the immediate consideration of H.R. 6119, which was received from the House and is at the desk, and that the only amendment be in order be Marshall Lee 4868. That Senator Lee be recognized to speak for up to 10 minutes, and that following his remarks, the Senate vote on the Marshall Amendment. That upon disposition of the Marshall Amendment, the bill shall be considered, read a third time, and the Senate vote on passage of the bill as amended, if amended with 60 affirmative votes required for passage, and that there be 6 minutes for debate equally divided in the usual form prior to each vote, without further intervening action or debate.
Is there objection? Without objection.
Mr. President.
The Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I am pleased to announce that an agreement has been reached between Democrats and Republicans that will allow the Senate to take up and pass the continuing resolution to fund the government through February 18. With this agreement, there will be no government shutdown, and I appreciate the work of my colleagues from both sides of the aisle, including Leader McConnell, to reach this point. The good bipartisan work that produced this agreement will give appropriators in both parties and in both chambers time to reach a comprehensive agreement on appropriations by February the 18th of next year. I am glad that in the end, cooler heads prevailed. The government will stay open, and I thank the members of this chamber for walking us back from the brink of an avoidable, needless, and costly shutdown. And I note the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Baldwin.